Hello, my name is Rethinking, and this is a channel where we are going to be engaging and talking about serious stuff, important stuff, but still having fun while at it. So first of all, I want to congratulate everybody who was writing their LGCSEs, their grade 12 and matric, right? So for the most part, I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and that conversation was relating to how a sibling of his needed advice, and he more or less had questionable grades, like he didn't do so well. And I think I get quite inspired by people who didn't do relatively well, and this tends to be my chat, right? It's okay not to have done well, but essentially what is not okay, I'm shooting from the car, so like people keep passing, like I just keep looking, but we're gonna keep going. So what I don't find okay is letting your grades determine the rest of your life, your future, and making decisions based on that. High school definitely is a very, very interesting time, and I'm generally even speaking from experience where everything is happening, the world seems, it's like everything is possible for you and you want to do everything and you want to do it now, right? And then comes a time when grades come and it's like, what happened? What's next? But sure. So for the most part, this is where I tend to say, sit down with yourself and be real, right? Be real. You want to ask yourself, what is your starting point? Your starting point is here where you're like, okay, sharp, this is the grades I have. What do I want to do? And from that standpoint, it already gives you a sense of what you need to do, where you need to go from that standpoint. And what I mean by that is, these are the entry requirements. How do I get there? How long am I willing to get to that point A to point B? And by point A to point B are your grades qualifying you to start at a certificate level, at a diploma level, or the most ideal case, of course, being a degree level. But then even at the degree level, it's like, okay, cool. Maybe my grades were not so good that I could, for instance, get into medical school, but it means I have to do a bachelor's, a BSc in something related, and then post that, I can now enter into medicine, you see. So it's a whole trajectory, and you have to be very particular of what you want to do, how you're planning on doing it, and it's all about having a strategy, pretty much. Just yesterday, the conversation I was having with one of the scholars who just wrote the high school, the final year high school, was that he had interesting grades, and this is what I was saying to him, okay, cool, let's sit down. Are you willing to go back and refix this? Are you willing to spend maybe 6 months or the whole year trying to fix this, or are you open to spending more time getting to your dream because you don't want to do this part of supplementing? You see what I mean? And what that meant is that she would then go get a certificate in what do you call it? It's skipping my mind, but hold on, give me a minute. But it's a certificate in nursing assistant, and after that you do it for, is it 1 year or 2 years? I don't remember clearly. But post that, you then have to go get work experience for 2 years, and then you then come back and come do a diploma in nursing for the next 3 years. So like that's how it works. And looking at that, it takes longer, but you still do get to your direction. And another thing that I tend to think about a lot is being real. And I think this is one of the things teachers, in as much as they push us to do better, they want us to do better, students, learners, scholars, we have, or they have, I'm a scholar essentially, so we have limitations, and maybe adaptability within the context of Lesotho, as far as that hasn't really been integrated well. And what I mean by this is, with the South African education system, matriculants, like, they're very clear, okay, cool, they're taking math or math literacy, and in our language here we would call it core and extended, core being the equivalent of math literacy, and extended being like pure maths, I think, yes. So sometimes you just generally have to sit down with yourself and say, cool, these are my limitations, and it's okay to say, I will do core, and just as long as, like, it's just enough to get me into the program I want to get into, cool. So that's like the starting point of how you would tend to think about this life thing and getting into varsity or college or what have you. And another thing is, again, sit down and breathe and leave the desperation alone. Because what desperation does, for the most part, is you're going to end up wanting to do anything and everything, and worst case scenario, you find yourself going to some random college, and next thing, the college is weird, such that it's not fully accredited, it's not fully registered with the Department of Higher Education, and you find that you spend money, and you also spend a lot of time that could have been saved towards doing something well and relatively attainable. And money, again, like, money is a really valuable resource, to be honest, and we don't just want to waste it. So leave the desperation and make conscious and clear decisions about where you want to get your education, and do not just get an education for the sake of getting an education. You want to learn because you want to acquire skills that make you well emancipated from the masses, and for you to be able to sit down with yourself and, like, be able to be like an adult who is I don't know, like, somebody who can take care of themselves, you know. This is the one reality of life where life generally hits you, that you're no longer a kid, you know. You have to take responsibility for your life. You have to take responsibility for the person you want to become from today. It's amazing how the entire time in high school, the conversation was for tomorrow. The tomorrow is now, and this is where it has led to, and this is the beginning, you know. It has always been the beginning, but clearly, like, I hope you get what I'm saying. So that is that. And I don't know. What I do think, rather, it's always interesting how we tend to say I don't know, but, like, even though you know what exactly what you want to say. But what is interesting is that, from my standpoint, is for like choosing what you want to do, or, like, not hold on. This is the point I'm trying to make. I should have scripted this, but it's fine to be off script somehow. Doing something or doing a qualification just because you qualify for it, and then it ends up being a nightmare for you. That is also another pandemic. A pandemic.
Scary.
That is also another pandemic, because for the most part, qualifications or degrees or programs that will allow you entry into that program will tend to have, like, lower entrance requirements. Generally, they tend to be the ones with the lowest return on investment. And again, this is another thing I really want you to think about what you're doing. That you are spending this money, you are spending this time to go to varsity, to go to college, to gain these degrees, because it's an investment, as is. So you wouldn't want to throw your money somewhere where you're never gonna get it back, where it's never gonna gain you any profit, So it's important for you to think about this. And true, if you get into such programs because you're passionate about them, life tends to be relatively easier for you. And by easy, this is what I mean. You live more comfortably with your decisions, and you're willing to go the extra mile and keep continuing upskilling yourself because you are passionate about this. But if you choose it for the sake of choosing it, it becomes problematic such that after the undergrad, it tends to be a bit harder for you to say, I want to go to do a master's in it, you want to go get a PhD in it. And truthfully speaking, some programs, some degrees are like that, such that they basically require you to keep going forward and furthering studies, such that you could possibly start or see better returns when you're say maybe teaching, you are now a professor of that, lecturing that particular course you did. You see what I mean? So this is where things actually get interesting, when you have now covered the crown bases and yay, hooray, completing your undergrad, and also when choosing the undergrad that you want to do, how to think of what's next from there. Because you don't want to do your undergrad and then now you're there wondering, okay, cool, what's next? You want to think about the now with the future in mind. And then if already at this point you're watching this video and you already have your undergrad, now this is also helpful to you in terms of thinking of how to pivot if that is what you're trying to do. So yeah, sure, let's get to it. Generally speaking, I know they keep saying follow your passion, and I could not agree more. Do follow your passion, because when the desperation wears out, your passion is going to be there to drive you forward. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Think of your choices, your selections in a very holistic manner. And by holistic, also, this is what I mean. Okay, you've done the step-by-step of sitting down with yourself and choosing exactly what you want to do. So here's the thing. After your undergrad, there's still more to do, and I will tell you this much. Undergrad is where now you're being fed, or you're being taught everything and anything that essentially molds you. But getting to postgrad is where you tend to now experience and learn relatively things you want to learn, or things that are basically important to you, that are worthwhile to you, you see. Sure. So that is that. What I was saying is thinking about your trajectory in a holistic manner is that post your undergrad in the sense, what is next? What is next? Because what do you want to do next? You see what I mean? And by that is, sure, for instance, you might be passionate and fascinated by public health, and your undergrad could just be a leeway into getting into that, and by that I mean maybe doing a master's in public health and you concentrating and focusing more on stuff like epidemiology and you see what I mean? So think long term, don't just think here and now. Don't just think about the here and the now. Think long term and think longevity. Do sit down, make that career plan, and while you think about entry strategies into this program you want to do, and by entry strategies I mean acquirement or acquiring the education you need, you also want to think about possible avenues and exit strategies. It might be a little bit early, you may think, to be thinking about exit strategies. And by exit strategies, this is what I mean. So while doing a particular program or degree allows you entry into a particular field, what stands is programs or degrees can be so diverse that you can find yourself exploring and entering different avenues with it. So that's what I mean by exit strategies. So true, there's like this linear route you're trying to follow, but then again, think about, should maybe this one in particular that you're trying to follow not work out, or should it happen that it's something you're not passionate about? What is next? What is available for you? What are the choices you have? Because again, remember, we have already invested this amount of money acquiring this education, acquiring this degree, and time for the most part. So unfortunately, like, true, while you can go back and do something else, we basically want to get it right the first time off the bat, you see. So that's that. I think I'm gonna conclude this here, but again, irregardless whether you have an A or you have an F, your life should not be determined by your grades. Think outside of the box, think holistically, and if you need to go back and fix something, please do it. And here's the thing, it may seem like you're wasting time when your peers are already at varsity, but you investing this time to rectify your mistakes is going to be worthwhile than you trying to drag along and just doing something and entering into a pit of more mistakes based on the one mistake you did before. And again, if anything will teach you now is that mistakes are very expensive. Right now, the cost of this mistake might particularly be that of you having to spend a bit of extra time and slightly extra money supplementing and repeating and upgrading your grades. But should you choose not to do it like that and enter into a program because you just qualify for it, rectifying that is going to be more expensive, more time consuming, and it's essentially going to be harder. That's what I'm saying. So make the right decisions for yourself, and it's okay to have made mistakes. Mistakes are very expensive. Learn from this particular ones right now and move forward. And if you did well, I really love it. I really love it for you. But also still sit down and think holistically about your life and try to avoid making any mistakes. You've done so well so far. Continue and keep doing well. And sure, yeah, we hope to see you soon in corporate. And meanwhile, do the best you can. Peace.